Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Mushinsky here. It's Wednesday evening, September 21st, or is it 20th still? In Vancouver, my computer's on Eastern time, so I might be staring at tomorrow, which I think I am. So this will probably come out pre-market. Actually, I'll try to get this I will get this done and scheduled tonight to get you guys pre-market or early market tomorrow. And the purpose of the video is I don't want to ramble much, but I've had a tremendous amount of interaction this week with various people in capital markets. And I mean, everything from some of the largest, most connected investors in the world in the natural resources sector to, company CEOs and regular people on the street, professionals on the street, every different little facet and bucket. So I feel here in Vancouver, you know, you get a pulse for what's going on, and you really start to get some information passed your way at various times in all these meetings I've probably had 20 to 25 meetings in 3 days. I mean, it's been quite busy, but obviously very fruitful. And I'm not going to give you company updates all in one shot here. I'm going to sort of give you some general market thoughts that I think you're going to be happy to hear, or at least entertain, and assuming that my bullishness that I have is anywhere near being correct. Because I'm going to make some comments that I feel deeply, that I want to share, that I've been a little reluctant to kind of go there because, and we're all human. This has been a very, very difficult, very bad 3.5 year now almost bear market, and like junior resource mining stocks, the smaller you go, the only market that I really have a frame of reference to that it does seem somewhat similar is the 2015 summer and fall, which was the tail end of a 4 year bear cycle that was brutal. Just prior, though, to an explosive move starting in January 2016. We have to remember things can change like that. And there's not always a starting gun that we get to hear. So I watch these different things closely. And, the GDXJ, for example, back in 2016, from January until July, it tripled. Many of the junior miners that we were involved in went up 5 to 10x. I mean, it was explosive. I don't expect that to be mimicked, but I wanted to talk a little bit about just this general environment, what I've picked up from other people that have kind of brought some clarity even to my own thoughts, because I get asked a lot of questions when I'm making the rounds, and you've got to sort of think. That's why the newsletter is super helpful. One reason why it's so helpful for me doing these videos, writing out my thoughts, I have to crystallize what it is that I believe and what I think. And that is an exercise that has really, I think, paid a lot of dividends for me personally. So thanks for being on the receiving end of some of these messages, because it's very helpful for me. So part of what I wanted to say was, just these meetings, you get not only updates from a lot of the companies that we have stakes in, but I really want to touch on in the beginning just general markets, and then I want to give you a little glimpse into a couple of the companies and some of the things that are on my mind in terms of urgency, what can wait until next week, this and that. But I think, if I really want to be honest about it, this is where the experience I've had in things like, markets that I've gone through, that, just like now, you have got an absolute market where bombed out small companies, shareholders, and people that have been in the business for a long time have been folding up shop and taking their chips and going home. And the environment, the way that I feel right now, which again, I've been cautiously saying a lot of times here, especially this year, I've been a bit early on bullishness and things like, let's call it nickel stocks, for example. I've been a very big proponent of giga metals. I still am. I think if I focused in on that, it will be one of the largest no-brainer scenario investments right here, buying into that stock in the mid to high 20s or low 30s Canadian or whatever. It's the biggest, one of the top five, call it, biggest no-brainers I've ever remembered in my career to make, let's not call it guaranteed, but guaranteed, um, 3, 5, 10x my money. This is going to happen. It's not a question of if. I know this story. I know what it's worth in a mini maxi way. And the assets that we've got, I love this industry because not everything is a moving part. You have physical dirt, ore bodies, metals, minerals. These are things that are there for us. They don't change with the wind, or if you have management that comes and goes, there are still opportunities to monetize the work that's been done in many cases over decades, right? So, Giga, so for nickel, I just remember in 2021, we're going back 2 years now, where I had such large profits in the crypto market. I had started to talk more about how I was rolling some of those into not only physical gold and real estate and cash, but more of a conservative allocation that I think I just learned a lesson over many years of extreme volatility personally with just my net worth and my investments, making big runs up, but then coming back down the hill because I kept rolling the dice for the big winners. After you make X amount of money, it's kind of appropriate to allocate when you just took all the risk on to make a big hit, and you get that, sock some things away for another day when there's screaming opportunities and everything else. And I was already seeing tremendous value. Let's look at Giga. I think the stock was probably around 40 cents Canadian at that time. And I'll pull it up. Why don't I just pull it up? I have a computer in front of me. And I'm just thinking about summer of 21 into the end of that year, okay? Because that is when those crypto profits were very, very actively being rolled over. So, it looks like, yeah, I mean, when you go even, we had that first situation in March, April to May of 2021, where Bitcoin hit its top and then it hit its actual ultimate top in November. So call it, that spring. I just remember early summer. Yeah, I mean, the stock was mid 30s to 41 or something. So if you go to the scenario there and you bought stock then and you've continued to accumulate, like I have recommended that you do, and average down, and full disclosure, I'm counting in my accounts, and I just met with Mark Jarvis yesterday, and I've got it's 2.2 million shares, and I'm down on paper here at 26 cents, close to 33% or so, a little bit less maybe now. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't looked at my accounts today or yesterday in too much detail, but down, call it 30 to 35% unrealized losses, okay, which I'm not concerned about in the least. But the Giga situation is it's a good reminder to go back to the other one, another analogy that I think is something that helps me in scenarios like this. For those of you that have been here, like on Encore, okay, Encore, I was 2 to 2.5 years early on the real uranium move and the beginning of a bullish cycle there, and an absolute incredible run on Encore from 5-6 cents all the way. I mean, today it closed at like 420 or something, and it did have a 1-for-3 reverse split, but it has gone as high as let's take a look at that as well. I just wanted to bring this up because it just goes to show that from time to time, early's better than late, no question about it. And as long as I'm right on the overall, yeah, so 675, 650 on Encore was the high back in 2021. So that would be, it was like 225 from 5 cents. Hey, not bad. Plus, many of us had a warrant element to that. But I recall at that time, thinking I was a genius because all of a sudden we're getting involved. We do a placement. I reached out to Bill Sheriff because of the nature of the market at that time was the uraniums had lasted a little longer in terms of just, not getting the bump. in earlier parts of 16. So I was shopping for these other bargain areas that could see that move next that we had just seen from gold that we were buying a year earlier, Gungnir at a half a penny, things like that that had gone up, many, many times. And the thing went from like 5, 6 cents. We finance at 6 cents, and we take a big block at 12 cents in the market. It goes to almost 20. And this was pretty quick. And I'm like, I nailed it, great. Then we roll over slowly into about 2.5 year bear market that still needed further to go in duration. And, in Encore's case, it went back to the lows, 4 or 5 cents. It didn't make new lows from there, if I recall. But I had conviction that entire way, for those of you that recall, and continued to never have a shaky hand on my recommendation to stick with Encore, accumulate what you can, and do not sell your stock. And that thing paid off in a mega way. That doesn't mean that this analogy is exactly going to be the same outcome, but it's going to be the exactly same outcome. Meaning, whether it's 2.5 years early, like talking about Giga. So Giga 2021 purchases, here we are. Here we are 2 years later, 2.5 years later. That would be the duration analogy with Encore if it starts to go now. So I don't care if I look back and I say it was 2.5 years, or if it was 3 years, or if it was 3.5 years. The nickel market, and the commodities markets are going to have, it's like night and day. This is what happens. Night follows day, follows night, follows day. Bull market follows bear market, follows bull market, follows bear market. I know what's coming next. It's a bull market. We've had a very bad bear market. And so my point being in this, don't lose faith, guys. Sometimes we have to reset, ourselves and our expectations if they were there and they were disappointed or whatever. I would encourage you on a few different notes. I'm telling you right now, with a lot, like I've been saying recently, if you do what I recommend with a part of your portfolio or the whole, don't do the whole thing. Just keep some money for grandma and safety, okay, and non-volatility. But I'm saying, if you follow and you're able to, and you have the cash and or income to continue to add allocations and plant seeds in this junior mining space. I mean, I also feel this way in crypto, obviously, but let's focus right here on the resource stocks. If you do that, you're going to make so much money with me. And we'll be at the end of the day. I mean, the challenge for me right now with where we're sitting, this will change. This is going to change completely when we have the opposite going on. And I'm going to be expressing caution. We are so far away from that. You have to rumble yourself out and like get outside your body to take a look at what could be coming and start to use your imagination. I was able to do that on this trip. And I believe there is a very good chance that the next bull run in the resources and mining stocks will be the largest in world history. There are so many things lined up for that to happen. It's incredible. I mean, I'm talking about gold, silver, nickel, copper, the whole deal, vanadium, lithium, cobalt, all that stuff. I mean, you're going to have your leaders and your laggards or whatever with base metals and this and that. But this is such an opportunity for those of us that are taking action on the buy side right now. The most difficult part of the game, as I say often and remind myself, is not really buying Giga at 25 or 30 cents. The challenge is going to be how to sell it, when to sell it, what to do, where do you take profits, how much do you take profits at where, because that's the part that is actually difficult for me at this point. There is no question in my mind. I have no doubt. I know that I'm going to be right, and I am right. I just have to stick with my trade. And because I've had to stick it out for a period of time and I'm actually down, I want to get paid for the time that I've had to suffer, and get paid for my time. So I add to this position regularly. And I have been similar with Phenom and things like this, where basically, I've got my finger on this market right now, and what I am feeling also is that I'm starting to see the fingerprints in the market that we could be very well starting a bull market right now. I don't know for sure. I don't feel like I'm going to ring a bell today. I feel like internally something's been shifting. My mind, my perception of things, like, for example, Giga in late August. I mean, usually that stock does respond if I put some piece out broadly and, like, really say, look, this is what's going on here. But to my recollection, when this thing bounced from 19 cents, I mean, I can tell you that I bought the last personally at 20, 21 cents Canadian in my own account and cleaned all of it out. And it ended up touching 18 briefly. But you couldn't buy, you can't buy this shit with any sort of size at the bottoms or top ticks. You have to be in the arena. It's all you have to do, and you can make a fortune. So, the thing bounces, and I forget if I sent an email here or not, but I feel like there's been some spurts a few weeks ago, and then even just Monday, where you're getting, it's like the selling has been bombed out. It's like this has been just grinded on for years, and there's such little volume on the buy side that's been happening that it trends lower, but the selling just persisted. Now the selling is theoretically, at least for now, it's drained itself. We saw a little bit of buying. The stock went from 20 to 30 cents in just a few days. That's a 50% bounce on nominal volume. I mean, the top day I'm seeing here was on for volume was August 30th, and that was 336,000 shares to a high of 29. So call it 25 cents, 29 cents, 30. I mean, it's not even 100 grand Canadian. And so this is what's so interesting about this to me. It's like these things are so small at this point. The amount of liquidity that it takes to move them dramatically is not going to be significantly needed to be a big amount of liquidity to move a lot of this stuff. So I'm seeing some of this happen though from things outside of like our group. And there's things that are happening in some of these a little bit more mature companies that I think the next phase, and even though we're seeing it in some of the juniors, I'm going to hone in on Carlisle in a second, which, that stock last week was 8.5 cents, or 2 weeks ago. It's now 14, going to freaking Pluto, Mars, or Venus, is what I've been saying in some of these meetings here this week after I've really absorbed this story. Okay, by the way, and you're going to see my name all over this thing right now and in the future, because I like having huge winners attached to my name if possible. And this is one I'm pressing on right now for you. And I'll get into some of the details before we log off here, because I think there's going to be a very brief opportunity for us to make sure you're loaded in the mid-teens or lower before it's gone and it's in the 25 to 30 range or 25 range, like that. And then, it's going to be tough to buy anywhere around here from there on out. But anyway, the point being on this stuff, so I'm seeing the fingerprints on a number of securities and stocks. So even like, look at NG Energy, explosive. We're up 100% in 2.5 months. Encore switching. I mean, that chart on Encore, I put that in there to yes, you'll see this on Thursday morning. It was yesterday morning. That monthly chart, just take a look at that. This thing has got a ways to go, which is why I've been putting my position back on in recent months that I had sold 2 years ago. And so you've got some movement. I mean, Encore, I'm looking at, that was like a 40% move recently in that stock with a lot of volume and GasX, and we're seeing some bidding off the bottoms of even companies like Golden Tag, which will be Silver Storm here soon. And so I'm not saying across the board yet, but it's kind of like it's touching a lot of stuff that we own. and it's starting. It's just a start. So all bull markets have to start somewhere, and they usually do so in a subtle fashion, as to like not give you that shot, the gun that the starting line just started, and the race is on, and you need to go after everything. It doesn't work that way. By the time you get, a lot of people get the message like this shit is going to be up hundreds of percent. Some of these stocks, hundreds, if not thousands of percentages, when people are going to start to pile in, this stuff just like they always do. So I would encourage you, if you've been down about your portfolio grinding down the last couple of years, like with all of us, it's done. I haven't avoided that. I've avoided it with, and I like to have some winners that we get massaged into this stuff to mitigate all those, to free up liquidity so we can buy things cheap. I know there's a limit to how much cash everybody has, but a lot of you do have money. And this is what I was saying even in early January and late last year about Bitcoin at 15, 16, 17,000, where I said, if you have like emergency capital for special situations, for risk situations that you want to pull, that's sitting there in a checking account or savings account or something that's paying very little interest and has systemic risk, now's the time where you're going to be tapping into that, which is what I was doing. I mean, selling physical gold a bit even, and freeing up cash that I had in different places, collecting a little interest and starting to put it in there. You know, it's just that's what time it is right now. So I would encourage you guys, because what I think is going to happen is the sort of shock and awe factor could occur over the coming weeks and months. I don't know yet. I have to see follow through, but usually how these markets start to shift, I'm feeling a bit of that right now. And like I said, it's early, but whether it's now or it's in another year, rest assured, our day where we actually have tailwinds instead of headwinds will come. And my job for you and for me and for anybody around me is to make hay while that sun shines, to the degree that can blow people away. Like, I don't know, for some of you, I hope that many of you, at least here over the years that have been around, have had that feeling of like, I can't believe how much money I'm making. This is insane. The amount of money, how high these things are going. I never imagined in a million years. Like, we have to also consider the opposite of how we feel and how things look from time to time, because that's what happens in cyclical markets like this. There are cycles, and there are psychological states that are associated along with the stages of those cycles, and the whole depressed, throw in the towel, I'm about to slip my wrist. That is where we are and have been now pretty much all year, and it's been building for the last 3.5 years. And for some people, might have had some relief runs and things like that, but this has been a long slug in the resource area. But guess what? It's just a reminder, when I have all these conversations on the street and everything else, I look at all the things that are coming from the supply demand side of macro, with nickel, copper, everything going on systemically with central banks for gold, and world governments and fiat currency debasement and debt. It's like, and the EV, green energy, battery metal trend, it's only going to happen once in history. And it's a very big deal. And it's also the reason it could be such a massive situation that I can't even maybe comprehend, is that it's all lining up. Like, if you've got this demand spike meeting a supply glut, prices can utterly explode, and they have to in capitalistic societies, to get the market back in balance eventually, which takes time. And that could be our window, which I think is here coming up. My biggest one thing I'm confident in is that we will make a tremendous amount of money between 2024 and 2027. That is going to be the sweet spot, where it is going to be a time that you can change your entire life and or financial profile. And so I would get clear if you could. I mean, these are tools that have helped me on why do you want to make more? What are you going to do with it? What are your goals? start putting it out there and start thinking big, because this bullshit we've been going through for years, it's going to change, and I think it is. So anyway, let's look at Carlisle as like a case study. I learned more about this by spending time with the CEO and some of the shareholders and things here this week. Little tidbits that are very important. Bob Dickinson from Hunter Dickinson, who's one of the most, you hear this a lot with people, but this is true. I mean, he's had 8 mines. This guy's a pretty legendary entity in Canada for starting 8 new mines in his career. Hunter Dickinson, large entity. That was where Carlisle sourced the Newton project from Bob Dickinson. And the tie-in there was, so he's the one who found this ore body, the real part of the ore body, going back, I believe it was '08 that they sunk $25 million into Newton. Carlisle bought this project 100% from Bob several years ago for $2 million. Just remember that, number one. But we've got a scenario here which is just incredible, which is also why you're seeing volume. The reason you're seeing all this volume coming in now is because we're just having conversations about the value. And today we traded about 1.2 million shares, I think, Canadian, in Canada. It's up a penny. But technically on this one, and I'm hoping this continues to happen, like some of the algorithms and the bots and all these things that we've been seeing come up with some selling. Those and or regular individuals, the last financing they did was at 15 cents. People are finally back to break even, and we're seeing some liquidity, and I am so happy for that, for you all. And I don't know, for me, I've already got 7.5% fully diluted that I own of the company myself. I have a big position, and a meaningful one. So if this goes to $1 or more, I make millions of dollars. So I'm attempting with giving you some details right now. For those of you that are listening, that are open, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for you, and I'm happy for you, because you're going to freaking destroy it with me and with our group, because we're going to have potentially with Carlisle, like in the coming weeks and months, we might have a statement, stick landing, if you will. And that's not counting the potential, the long-term blue sky on this thing is, I think we have $100 million asset on our hands, and we're trading at 3 million. So you do the math on that, but this volume that's showing up all of a sudden in the mid-teens, like this is going to get cleared out by early next week, if not by Friday's close. The stock supply that's coming back to the market at 15, 16, 14 cents or whatever Canadian. Once we chew through that, this thing's going right to 25 cents. I mean, it's just, you can see it. There's not going to be really any resistance. It's going there. And then, so but from 14 cents, that's like an 85% move. So, and the other thing that drives me nuts, though, I'll just put this as an aside. I always tell you guys, I don't, when there's something that's like very small, illiquid, or finally getting some liquidity that's still got this type of evaluation on it, you don't sit on the bid to save a half a penny or a penny when you have $1 upside. Okay, it doesn't make any sense if you don't have the position on that you're satisfied with already. You have to wake up and jar yourself and buy offers. I would say it's at least 75% of the time, but all these positions I've accumulated in these markets, which are the down markets or whatever, even in the down markets, with the volume drying up from Lodestar to this one to that one to Carlisle, I buy in pieces, but I take out offers. And sometimes I go a half a penny above the offer. I pick random days after they've been down, and I buy the offers in a half a penny above, go high bid, I get filled, and I'm like, I got my fill, and I'll step back. Let's just let it fade again if possible. But Carlisle's already turned. Carlisle is on a jet plane headed north. And so I want to make sure you guys understand some few of these components. Like with Dickinson, you have there's an entity, I'm not even going to get into the names, but there's an entity here that in Vancouver is an extremely established mining engineering firm that was commissioned by New Gold, which bought the Blackwater project. The Blackwater project is our map of value creation for the Newton asset. Extremely, the proximity, the geology similarities. This is, and I'm going to give you a comment by somebody who's more qualified than I am to make a statement, but I was actually extremely intrigued by the statement from this individual who was hired by New Gold, which paid, by the way, $550 million for Blackwater when it had about 4 million ounces as a resource of gold with very similar grades and everything else to Newton, which is a 1 million ounce deposit right now in the inferred category at about 0.7 grams of gold per ton, which is fine. I mean, for me, but and for that area, these are not low grades. Even the half a gram they had with those incredible intervals of 600 plus meters and things. I mean, those are serious holes. And so when I started to see those things, that's why I've been getting pulled into this one more and more. And you're hearing me talk about it more and more. And we just sunk, 550, 600 grand into the private placement, is because things are being revealed. It takes a little time for this, but Blackwater at 4 million ounces. So how far are we away from that? Well, Hunter Dickinson had this Newton asset at 1.6 million ounces in the inferred resource category in 2012. 2014, there's a spacing issue in terms of the reporting requirements to include certain inferred resources in your 43-101. So they scaled it back to where we are, 900 some thousand to a million ounces right now. It's been there when they got it, and what's going to happen with the money they have in the bank, the thought is they're going to be going out, and they're going out here in like a week or two, and you're going to start to see a lot of drilling from Carlisle. And they have probably about 7 or 8 or 9 holes, is my guess, within the budget to put some of these historical infill where they already have the data. They're just going to sink it again, but they're going to go deeper and see what else is there, and put that extra 500,000-600,000 ounces back in the inferred category. So that's just a wonderful start. Then they have these hot targets to expand the project for essentially like a new discovery in a couple of areas. And I think, after talking with them in depth, the thought is to poke one hole with the budget here and take a shot, roll the dice. Totally new discovery would blow things open. But the low risk probability here is that we're going to 1.5 to 2 million ounces pretty quick, keeping it in the inferred earlier category, but no problem for me, because you're still today at 14 cents. We have a $5.7 million Canadian market cap, which is 4 million US, but we have $1 million in cash. So you're still paying an enterprise value of under 3.5 million US. So call it, you're paying $3.50, $4 an ounce of gold in the ground. It's trading at 1,900, 2,000. Okay. This stuff doesn't last. It just won't last. So this individual who was brought in by New Gold in 2018 or 19 to build that Blackwater mine, which now is a 12 million plus ounce massive open pit, the biggest open pit gold mine development occurring right now in Canada, owned by Artemis, who, they came in later after New Gold threw in the towel and gave it to them cheaper than they had purchased it a while back. But think about that, for 4 million ounces, $550 million in stock is what was commanded there. And so we're going to be at 1.5 to 2 with a clear path here. Anybody I'm talking to, whatever, I mean, this is a 3 to 5 million ounce deposit. They don't need any other assets. This is a company maker. But the entity I was talking about that was hired to build the Blackwater mine, who knows? I mean, he was hired. He's got a team of 150 mining engineers that work for his firm. He's a shareholder in Carlisle. He's a very successful person, obviously. And he made a comment earlier this summer to Morgan Good, who's a younger guy, CEO. And he said, look, kid, stop calling this a mini Blackwater, Newton. It's the next Blackwater. So that is to me, I know I mean, I'm believing it's a true statement, a comment by this particular individual that has tremendous credibility. So look, do we have a 10 million ounce gold deposit here? I don't know, but we could. And you have it trading. We were just now we're at like call it a franchise of 2 hot dog stands in Times Square valuation. It's crazy. So get your shares on in Carlisle. I was going to make one other comment, but so I will say this: the people that are trying to buy stock right now, imagine like the end of a freaking U2 concert trying to get out of one door. That's how I almost see it. I mean, it's like we have so many people around that were legacy people with the company that are seeing life, that have been sticking by them, and then all of our new interest and like people kind of going, what is this thing? How is this fallen into this orphan state with what they have and where they're going? They'll raise more money, but it's not going to be anywhere around where we just did it. And it's going to be measured. I've had luck with communicating my thoughts about making sure that the share structure here is not messed with. It's very calculated and conservative. You raise your big money once you're at a much bigger valuation. Until then, you keep this structure intact. We're at 41.285 million shares outstanding right now. So it's all set up. But those of you that are, and I'm not saying like today, if it opens up and we see a couple million shares come in and it goes to 17, 18, maybe wait or try to get some off the jump, 15, 16. And then, if it's just going crazy, maybe you hold off a little bit. But if it's down I don't think it's even going below 13 cents again. I mean, there's too many bids. Everybody's got these bids in half a penny below the market. There's a lot of them, by the way. Like, I'm talking about millions and millions of shares ready to be bought between 10 and 13. And there's so many people that are chomping at the bit to buy this stock and get it cheap, and they're getting confused and kind of restless because it's going up on us now, and you know how that goes, right? So don't be one of the people, please, that chases Carlisle at 40 cents. Don't be one of them when you've had this thing on a silver platter. We did a cross at 13 cents. We had a financing at 8.5. We're back at 13.5, 15 cents. Put a position on. If you don't have enough, grab some more. And then I think we're going to see a bit more heat here, like going into the weekend, most likely a lot of volume, I should say, mostly buying volume, and maybe and as long as it doesn't, if it does, even, it might be better that it busts through very quickly and goes right to like 23 to 25 cents by Friday or Monday. And then we have to see it and everybody steps back and you let it cool off and then accumulate, but you're still not going to get a better price than like 16 cents. It's not going to go fall back that far. So stick to the plan here, guys. I'm going to have updates on, and I mentioned Giga, I mentioned Carlisle. Okay, these are two today, no brainers that are in front of you. This is what I do for a living. This is why you pay me. This is why, hopefully many of you, if you've grown to trust me, these are ones you just don't want to, you don't want to be sitting on the sidelines watching, because when they're kicking in, it's, don't make me remind you that I told you so, because it will suck. Okay. I'll just tell you that right now. I want you to be happy. I want us to have, I like the euphoric feelings of watching, your numbers just climb in green in extraordinary ways, day after day, week after week. And that's what I think. Like I said, I don't prepare as somebody who's here as a bit of an advisor and or researcher and analyst for you guys, and taking the pulse of these things, finding these opportunities. I mean, the reason partially I love Carlisle too, nobody told me about this stock. I found it literally at a 1 a.m., going through my venture cap portfolio searches, under 5 million market cap, solvent, real management, real assets, good share structure, re-examining the whole situation over and over, learning more about the story and saying, these opportunities are not going to occur in even a half-assed decent market. This is not going to say a once in a lifetime, but a once in a decade type of a thing, that where these drop off, and like Lodestar and some of these other ones. I literally just, with scouring and doing the research process that I do, that's how I found this. There was no call from the C. I mean, it doesn't even matter if there was, and if somebody brought it to my attention, which happens all the time, doesn't make it less viable. But I like the purity of these situations. It's like, I just, it was an idea generated from searching around and this and that, and it caught my attention. I look at the documents, I look at the Cedar filings, I'm analyzing the situation, the PowerPoint, looking into the all the different news that's been out, and really, the balance sheet first is what I look at, and then scoping out people involved, and looking more into detail and learning about the technicalities of the asset and the viability of the asset potentially. But it's all come together for this one, and I'm not going to be saying this with such conviction at 40 cents. I mean, it's still going to probably go up much higher from that, but it's not going to be as much of a no-brainer for those of us that already have a quadruple, and already have, taken our principal out of the thing. It's going to be a beautiful sight. So Giga, though, as well, I've actually told some people that I thought, Giga could be, it's definitely up there with the biggest no-brainer of anything to do right now in terms of allocating your capital. Oh, and by the way, I don't even know, but we might even see the PFS release today or tomorrow. I met with Mark yesterday. I'll give you guys more of a full update on Giga after we see the PFS. How about that? It's coming. I mean, it's like any minute, any day. We've already heard from them. They've been a little bit late on getting it out, like last month and the month before. But I think that actually, I'm reading into Mark and some of the things. I mean, he can't tell me the numbers, but I basically, I'm reading into some real enthusiasm about why the delays were there to get these things qualified, double checked, everything else. I don't see a lot of risk that anything is not, it's going to be improved from the PEA stage. And now we're at a pre-feasibility stage project. And it's insane, because Giga is trading like nickel's at $4, but it's not. It's at 9, it's at 10. It's not at $4. It's not going back to $4. And, we'll see what happens with these nickel plays. By the way, I'll comment on like our nickel rock, which is now, Cell, CELL, Murchison, EVNI, and the nickel plays in a separate video. I want to do that in little pieces with gold and, and battery metals and the nickel plays and things like that. Over the next week, you're going to see updates on this stuff and my thoughts about which ones do you want to be adding to or lightening up or avoiding going too deep into, or things like that. But Giga's obviously, again, second biggest position that I have now. I've got more money in there than even in McEwen Mining, the value there, and still dwarfed by Phenom Resources, which just had dinner with Paul Colley, 2 elite members. Got an update from him. I'm excited about that. I'll wait on a more detailed update as well. But for those of you that know, should be adding and nibbling on Phenom as well. It's bombed out. There's no stock. I don't even know if it traded yesterday. Did it? Probably not much. I mean, I was looking, it didn't even trade. This is Wednesday night. It traded, it traded 500 shares. Okay. What do you say, guys? I mean, this thing's, I think the bottom's in. That's what I'm trying to get at here too. And I'm not saying I'm doing that with a caveat at the moment. I want to see like another couple of uh, weeks or the next week to 3 to 4 weeks and the activity that goes on there to totally say that I'm confirming I feel deep in my soul that the bottom is in for the natural resources mining stocks and juniors. I'm, I'm feeling like it is. I think what's going to happen though, and I'll wrap it up, is that the majority of the better plays and things are have seen their bottom and they're going up from here. Some of them could be a bit violent over the course of the coming 3 to 4 months. And then you're going to have the laggards. And so we're going to be doing what I think we do well here too is like we'll pay attention on the front end to the ones that need our capital to be allocated because they're going to start moving first or second. And then, there is tax loss selling season coming up too. So over the course of October and November, I like to go shopping for the tax loss sold off plays to trade into January. And I think we're going to have some really good opportunities there too. So you want some dry powder for that, but hopefully it's from taking some profits from other things that are really flying at the same time. That would be ideal. And I think this year's whole makeup with other profits and other asset classes and things, there's going to be a need for some tax loss selling in certain things. And the real pieces of crap, if anything, they're just not going to run quite yet, even if there is a start with some of the better stuff. And we'll be able to utilize and leverage the tax loss selling season as well. So thanks for sticking in there with this space, with Gold Investment Letter, with me. And I'm I'm trying my best over here, with a lot going on always. I'm not going to let you down with the stuff that I put on your plate. And I've got a lot of new stuff in the pipe. Deal flow for elites is going to be highly coveted. I mean, I've been in markets where it's really tough to get people to fill a $400,000 allocation. We're like with just the elite members I'm talking about, and that's what we're coming out of right now. And I've been in markets where for a $400,000 allocation, I have 6 to 8 million in indications of interest, and I've got to decide how to chop that up because it's free money. It's just giving out money. So we're not even close to that, but that's what's coming. So make sure you're active in these times, guys, because that's just going to set yourself up to be more liquid for the things that might need to be fired and have things ready to go because things are just going to freaking blow quickly and violently. And I can't wait for that, but I can. If it takes longer than what I'm saying with what I'm feeling could be occurring with the shift in the winds formally, if I'm right on that, I'd be happy. But if I'm not, and it takes some more time, we know it's coming, guys. We know it's coming. So anyway, have a great day, and I will be traveling most of today back to the Midwest, and then I will be back online on if I don't write anything on the plane ride for follow up that's imperative. I'll do something Friday and or over the weekend Monday. And I do expect a lot of content updates. I just have a lot of stuff that I have to chop up for you guys to digest and what I'm going to do in terms of the timing of what. But tomorrow, a lot of time on a plane and traveling, so I may be out of pocket after the first part of the morning. But have at it. Have at it. I think you have to be buying stuff. Have a good day.